Hello, my name is Amber and welcome to my August wrap-up. I am hoping this goes smoothly as I am pressed for time to get this filmed, edited and uploaded, and I'm feeling a little under the weather. We'll see how we go. So my reading has definitely slowed down compared to what it was at the beginning of the year. So this month I read 6 books and I also hit 100 books for the year. And honestly, 6 books in a month is still a decent amount. It's just not quite the same as earlier this year. But then I've had months when I've read nothing, so it is good. So first I read Bat Eater by Kylie Baker. So I gave it a low 4 stars. It was about Cora Zheng, who's a young woman who sees her sister pushed in front of a train. She then gets a job as a crime scene cleaner where she starts to see similarities between some of the crime scenes that she's cleaning up, all of them involving Asian victims. Then as the Festival of Ghosts starts to loom closer, her food starts to go missing and she starts to see signs that her sister is still around. So I enjoyed it, although I use the term enjoy quite loosely. There were bits towards the end where we learnt what was really going on that made me sad. And I think part of it was because I could see it happening in real life, minus the supernatural element. So there is a lot of East Asian racism in the book, and it looks at topics around identity, belonging, mental health, and grief. Oh, and there's a lot of body horror in it as well. So I did debate between a high 3 star and a low 4 star, but settled on the 4 because of the ending. There was quite a few things that took me by surprise. One was a twist. And another surprise was something that, considering the type of book, I should have seen coming. But for some reason, I was expecting things to be more okay at the end than they were. So then I read Demon Thief by Darren Shan. This was a reread for me. It was around 20 years ago that I last read it, so I didn't really remember it that well. When I was a kid, I really liked Darren Shan, although I only read the Cirque du Freak / Saga of Darren Shan series in full. And I read about half of this one. So was I really that much of a fan? I'd say yes, considering I think the Cirque du Freak series is like 12 plus books. So I've still read quite a few books written by him. And I think as a child, I would have given the majority of books that I did read 5 stars. So Demon Thief is the second in the Demonator series, and it features a different main character than in the first book. And you could, if you really wanted, read it without reading the first book, but I wouldn't recommend it as there's a couple of things in the second book that you wouldn't understand if you hadn't read the first book. So the main character in Demon Thief is Colonel, who is able to see strange lights that he can move and manipulate, and these lights, when put together, can form portals into various hellscapes. Then when his younger brother is stolen by a demon, he bands together with a group of demon hunters and uses his power to try and get him back. Like Bat Eater, it's full of body horror, but it's a lot lighter read. I enjoyed it and rated it a high 3 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did as a kid, but that could well be because I'm not a child anymore and not part of the target audience. But it still made me look forward to reading the rest of the series, especially as I think that when I read these books previously, I preferred the books with Grubbs as the main character, and Grubbs is the main character in at least the first and third book. But I'm not sure about further on than that, as I think it was only the first 4 that I read previously. Then I read Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. So I went into this book blind and I found that I really enjoyed it. Recently I've been wondering about the psychology behind cults and extremism. So when I discovered that this book included that, I was hooked. Although I don't know enough to say how accurate it was. So Some Desperate Glory is set in the future when Earth has been destroyed, along with a huge chunk of humanity. Our main character, Kia, lives on what I guess is a space station, where she's been trained to get revenge for what happened to humanity. She is what is known as a war breed, which basically means that she was bred to have particular genes that will make her good at fighting, just like how everyone else in the community were bred a particular way and conditioned to serve a particular purpose. Kia is perhaps the most indoctrined character in the book that we spend any time with, and at first I couldn't stand her. And this was because her thinking and her actions all aligned with what they were supposed to believe. But I was always aware that this was because she was made that way, but I was also aware that those around her were not all like this, so we couldn't just blame her surroundings. She had to take some blame as well for her actions and the way she treated people around her. But then she is given orders that don't align with what she wants and what she believes, and her family is threatened, and the seed of discord is planted. So I really enjoyed this book, minus one section that I thought was dull but necessary, and I really enjoyed getting into the brain of Kia. It might have been harrowing at first, seeing what she believed in and what an awful person she was, but then we get to see her reality wrecked, and that kinda entertained me. I'm not sure what that says about me. So I hope to read more from Tesh in the future, as I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Then I read The Will of the Many by James Islington. This book has been on my radar for a while, as it seemed quite hyped, and what little I knew about it sounded like it would be something I enjoyed. It did not disappoint, and was perhaps my favourite read of the month, and I ended up rating it 4 stars, but it was a high 4 stars. I think it was the characters that caused me to not give it a 5 stars, although I liked them and connected to some of them. Most of the characters I didn't really care about, but everything else, like the story and the setting, I really liked, and I'm really intrigued as to what will happen next, especially with the sort of epilogue part of the book, as that really got me asking questions. So this book is about Viz, who was orphaned when the Catalan Republic conquered his people. He is adopted by a well-off man who wants him to attend the Catalan Academy in order to investigate the death of his brother. That's the brother of the man who adopted him and not Viz's brother. The academy is basically a place where privileged individuals send their kids, late teens, to learn and train. When they graduate from the academy, they are basically guaranteed a good position in the hierarchy, which every member of the Catalan Republic is part of. So while he's there, this must complete to secure a high position, while investigating a possible murder, and without anyone learning who he actually is. And that includes hiding who he is from his adopted father as well, as he's not just any orphan created by the Republic. So what I especially liked about this book is that it's full of backstabbing, politicking and manipulation, and I just read it feeling like most characters could not be trusted, but I did find myself trusting some. So I also enjoyed how the author didn't spell everything out to us. There were many times when we were left to work out for ourselves what was going on, and sometimes came to different conclusions than this. Well, at least I came to different conclusions than this. Other people reading might come to the same conclusions. So I suppose many of these things we did get spelled out a little more clearly later on in the book. I think it was the same in Some Desperate Glory, where sometimes we would be shown a situation where the main character would come to some conclusion because of the behaviour of those around them, and we had the chance to come to a different conclusion. So after that I read Blood Slaves by Markus Redmond. This started off really well, and I had thought it would be a 5 star, but it ended up as a 4, as the ending seemed a little bit lacking. But I think this is going to be a series, so it could still be redeemed. So Blood Slaves is set on a slave plantation and follows Willie, who is trying to keep himself, his love Gertie, and their unborn child safe, which is a little hard to do in his situation. Now, I wasn't sure whether to call Willie Willie or Quadzo, as Willie is his slave name, and Quadzo is a name given to him by his mother. But there are many times when Willie and Quadzo are painted as almost being two different people, with Willie being the slave and Quadzo being the vampire who must become to save them all. So I think, as I will mostly be talking about the start of this book, in order to avoid any spoilers, I will refer to him as Willie. Willie meets Rafazi, who is the lone survivor of the Ramanga, who are a African vampire tribe nearly made extinct by plague. So I did look this up and found that there is a existing myth about the Ramanga tribe, and that this myth wasn't made up for this story. So I will admit that although I know a lot of vampire tales and myths, what I know tends to be very Western, but I was surprised that I had come across the Ramanga tribe before, as they were in Young Dracula, which is a TV show that I adored as a child. Well, I enjoyed the first few series, and then they revamped it, if you will, having a change of most of the characters. So Rafazi is also a slave, and he wants to tame Willie so that together they can create an army and get revenge for what has been done to them. This book pulls no punches. If you are sensitive to anything that might appear in literature, then I suggest that you look up the trigger warnings, as there is a lot, and it doesn't gloss over anything. It's quite brutal in places, and I enjoyed this. as I felt it showed how shit people can be, but it also saddened me, as although this is a fictional story about vampires, there was a lot of reality in it. So I did find myself rooting for their revenge and really looked forward to it until Gertie came along as the voice of reason and made me question whether revenge was worth becoming monsters. But then, does becoming a vampire mean you are a monster? I would argue that there were plenty of human monsters in this that were worse than the vampires, and this is a common theme in horror, the idea that humans are the real monsters, or the humans being more monstrous than the monsters that we fear. I really enjoyed this book, but felt that the ending lacked something. What that something is, I don't know. My last read of the month was completely different, as I read King of Wrath by Huang. So this is the first in the Kings of Sin series, and I felt it was a bit of a letdown. So previously I've read the Twisted series by Huang, and the Kings of Sin series is linked to this, having some of the same characters and settings. And I don't know if my enjoyment of that series has affected the enjoyment of this one, whether through comparing them or whether through the same formula being used in all the books. So in King of Wrath, Vivian and Dante enter into a arranged marriage. However, only Dante knows the real reason for their marriage, which is that Vivian's father is blackmailing him into marrying his daughter. But whatever the circumstances, it's very quick that we find there is something between Vivian and Dante, despite their initial animosity. I'm not really sure what to say about this book. It follows the usual romance pattern with a third act breakup, and like with the Twisted series, it features a alpha male type character who can be a bit of a dick. So that is all I read in August. I had quite a few 4 stars, and although I didn't read as much as earlier this year, I found that I was really locked into what I was reading and enjoyed myself. And of course, I hit 100 books for the year, which was my Goodreads goal, and that felt like quite an accomplishment. So what did you guys read this month? Any new favourites? Comment below and let me know. And of course, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more. And I'm glad this video is over, as I've got a blocked nose and I'm having trouble breathing. I will see you next time. Bye.